Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Presidential Address. It is week 2. I'm Lawrence Presman, wagertalk.com. And, let me tell you what happens on the NFL Presidential Address. Basically, I go down the board top to bottom. We are going to talk sides and totals if I can find bets on every single game. We're also going to have a guest cameo appearance from Andy Lang. He's going to give out 3 prop bets as well. At the end of the show, I'll give you my 3 best bets. Last week, we went 2-1 on them, and my teaser bet. Last week, we won our teaser on the show as well. So really a 3-1, including if you include the teaser and the best bet. So stay with us all the way to the end. I also want to let everybody know that I spoke to head office and I've got an incredible promo for all of you guys. 7 days of all my plays, regularly $119. You guys can get it for only $49. That's less than half price. That's give or take 58, 60% off. $49 for 7 days of all my plays, baseball, college, NFL. Use the promo code PREZ49. That's PREZ49. Last week for my clients, I did have a losing week 1. I went 3-4. I really should have been a winning week. I had the under in the Raiders game, 17-10 going into the fourth quarter, and found a way to lose it. I was watching it with a friend, and he's like, "Oh, you're good. You're good." I'm like, "No, I'm not good. 17-10 still can equal 48. And it did. 24-24 going into overtime. But I will bounce back. I'm looking for a really good week 2, so let's get into it. Guys, I just want to say right off the bat, we had dogs last week, 12-4. Week 1 is always the hardest week in football. Week 2 is the overreaction week. We're going to be talking about that throughout this show. Let's start right off the bat with the New York Giants going into play Washington. New York Giants are plus 3.5 points with a total of 40.5. And the total has been bet down, guys. It was 43. So to go from 43 to 40.5 is big. 41 is a key number in total. So it crossed that as well. There's clearly a lot of money coming in on the under, and I agree 100% with that. I mean, let's go through this game. Giants last week lost to Denver 27-13. That's 40 points, plays to the under. Washington lost to the LA Chargers 20-17. That's 37 points, played to the under as well. Last week the Giants had absolutely no running game. 60 yards on the ground, and I don't think they're going to be able to do any better than that against the Skins, who have a very good defense. I would say as good a defense as Denver does. Washington, conversely, even though they lost last week, they had a very well-balanced offense, 130 yards, both offense and defense, but they did lose their quarterback, Fitz, and now we're going to see whether Heineke or Allen starts. I think it's going to be Heineke. Everything suggests it's going to be Heineke, and I think that has to be taken into account in this game. The bottom line here for me, guys, is that the New York Giants suck, like flat out suck. Like, I'm not going to mince words here. You take Detroit and Houston and the Giants and Jacksonville, and I mean, you're looking at probably the 4 worst teams in the league. Daniel Jones is not progressing. The guy just really struggles to hold on to the ball. Their defense, the Giants, are not very good at all. Denver should not be able to put up 27 points against almost anybody. I think the Giants are a mess. Their coach must be so upset. Daniel Jones will end up being a terrible draft pick, but hey, there's still time. When you look at this game, I got to look at Washington to win this game and under the total. And I understand that we didn't get under 43, which means that I'm probably looking at a half bet size on the under because I'm not getting anywhere near the best number. But this game has 17-10, 17-13, 17-9 written all over it. I think the Giants are going to struggle to score in this game. They struggled to score against Denver, 13 points. I don't think they're going to get much more than 13 points against Washington. And I think Washington's going to run the ball a ton against that New York Giants defense. So take Washington minus 3.5, just a much better team than the New York Giants, and under the total with a predicted score of somewhere around 17-13 for Washington. Let's move on to the New Orleans Saints versus the Panthers. And this game is very interesting because here's what we know. We know that the New Orleans Saints beat Green Bay 38-3. We also know they're not going to average 38 points a game. We also know their defense isn't going to hold teams to 3 points a game. That first game was an aberration for New Orleans, and I think it's why the line is -3. It came out at -1.5 with a total of 44. The total has been bet up to 47, which is a substantial bet up. And the line originally was -1.5 to New Orleans, and now it is -3. Look, Jameson looked really good last week. I grant you he only threw 148 yards, 20 pass attempts all game, but he had 5 touchdowns, and he had 1 catch of over 55 yards. And I think that's going to be the big difference between New Orleans this year and New Orleans last year, where Breeze was really struggling to stretch the field. I think we're going to see Jameson go deep at least 2 to 3 times a game and ultimately connect or not connect. That's going to open up a lot of room for Kamara and the running game. And I think we're going to see New Orleans run the ball a lot. 20 pass attempts last game against Green Bay. This suggests that the New Orleans team is going to play to the under. I don't expect 38 points from them very regularly. As for the Panthers, look, they got to win 19-14 against the Jets. I don't know what that means. They did not look that great to me. Darnold did make a few good passes. Christian McCaffrey put up a ton of yards, almost 200 yards from the line of scrimmage, and their defense looked okay. But this is a team that didn't look like they knew how to close out the game. I mean, they were a missed 2-point conversion away from not covering that line at all. With all that said, though, I think we have such a giant overreaction to the New Orleans Saints that the play needs to be on the Carolina Panthers. I'm telling you flat out, I am not betting this game. I'm going to pass. But the right side is the Carolina Panthers, and especially if you could get it at 3.5. And there are a bunch of 3.5s out there, guys. So look at the Carolina Panthers at +3.5. Speaking of overreaction, Houston at Cleveland. I mean, Houston put up 450 yards last week against Jacksonville, 160 on the ground. Who expected that? I mean, their running game came into the season on paper atrocious, yet they put up, almost the most amount of rush yards in the entire week 1. Cleveland lost to Kansas City 33-29, but they dominated this game for 3 quarters, and really that messed up punt at the end of the game, 7 minutes to go, give or take, was really the difference in this game. Cleveland went into Kansas City, dominated for 3 quarters, and really could have come out of that game with a win. This Cleveland Browns team is for real. They are a contender, and they should have won on the road against the mighty, twice going to the Super Bowl in the last 2 years, Kansas City Chiefs. The Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-21, and Tyrod Taylor looked great. 291 yards of offense, very impressive. Houston was just a wow in game 1 against Jacksonville. And their defense is supposed to be just brutal. 3 interceptions against Trevor Lawrence. That's not going to happen again against Cleveland. I'd be surprised if they get 1. Now, look, I never, ever take double-digit favorites. I am not taking Cleveland minus 12.5, minus 11, whatever number you can get out there. But I will not take Houston at plus 12.5. Massive overreaction on Houston. This team is terrible, and we actually saw legit how bad Jacksonville is. I like the over in this game, 48 points. It was 45.5, so we have missed the best of the number. So again, it's sort of a half bet size play, but I do like over the total of 48 points in this game. Let's go to Cincinnati and the Bears. Cincy beat the Vikings last week, 27-24 in overtime. Mixon looked outstanding, ran for 127 yards against what everyone expected to be a really good D in the Minnesota Vikings. Cincy had a very well-balanced offense as well. Joe Burrow looked outstanding too, especially on that fourth down play at the end of the game where he faked the defense out and was able to pick up the yards to set up that game-winning field goal. The Bears, oh my God. I mean, this Bear team is an absolute disaster. 34-14 against the Rams. They look brutal, but more importantly, they look brutal on defense, like flat out. Their secondary looked like the worst secondary in all of football. They were scorched by the Rams. Two giant plays by Matt Stafford, both resulted in touchdowns. And, I think the Bears are going to struggle all year. Look, their offense was okay. It was okay. They ran for 134 yards. This is how I see the Cincinnati game playing out, guys. I see the Bears running the ball. I would say at least 50% of the plays they're going to run the ball. I think we're going to see smash mouth football. I think Cincinnati is going to run the ball as well. This game is going to play to the under. Take under 45 in this game, but I'm telling you flat out, I am not betting this game. I'd like to wait and see, but my lean is towards the under. Now let's talk about Vegas and Pittsburgh. Vegas won the game 33-27 against the Ravens. Just an outstanding football game. And what the Raiders showed was a lot of poise. I mean, they thought they won the game in overtime with that long bomb catch. They ended up on the 1-inch line. They couldn't get it done. They threw an interception, and then their defense came right out, got the ball right back, and they ended up with an incredible play to win the game. This Raiders team just looked poised and confident. Look, their offense, a hair under 500 yards, but they really struggled in the run game, which doesn't bode well playing Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh's pass rush is exceptional, and so is their secondary. I was very impressed with the Raiders' pass rush, especially Max Crosby. Who? Yeah, who? Max with the double X. 2 sacks that game. And that's not going to bode well for Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh has just a god-awful offensive line. Pittsburgh beat Dallas last week 23-16, but that was smoke and mirrors, guys. Pittsburgh struggled to move the ball all game and won because of a Buffalo fumble and a blocked punt. Pittsburgh scored 17 points last week out of 23 on all off of turnovers. Their defense, however, was absolutely killer. TJ Watt lived in the Bills' backfield and should be an issue for the Raiders all game long, especially with the Raiders having a very bad O-line. I mean, the Raiders against Baltimore, Derek Carr was running for his life the entire game. Bottom line here, boys, and I am betting this, take the Vegas Raiders at plus 55 and take under the total of 47. Again, it was 49. It's been bet down to 47, so we missed the best of the line. So make that a half-point bet, but a half of your normal bet size, but take under the total and take Vegas and sprinkle a little bit of money on Vegas on the money line. I think this Pittsburgh team is terrible, and I think this is the single biggest overreaction line of the entire week. How the hell can Pittsburgh be minus 5.5 against the Raiders? They should have been beaten by the Bills, and then it would have been like a -2 at the best. So I think we're getting a ton of value on Vegas. We spoke a lot about Buffalo in that segment. Let's talk about Buffalo versus Miami. Line was -3 to Buffalo. It's been bet up to -3.5. The total 47.5. And, well, my God, the Bills couldn't have looked any worse last game. Lost 23-16 to Pittsburgh. But they did control the majority of their game. And although their defense had, and I mean absolutely zero pass rush, they were still able to bottle up Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh had a couple of really good drives, both 9-play drives, both ended in scores. But if you take away the turnovers from the Bills and the two fourth down conversions, 2 fourth down attempts missed, the Bills completely dominated this football game. When you look at Miami, they beat the Patriots 17-16. But again, just like the Bills, man, they were lucky to get the hell out of there with a win. New England fumbled the ball late in the game in a field goal position, and that's really what won the game for Miami. Tua did not look good, as expected by me. 202 yards, but most of that was just dink and dunk plays. The Dolphins had a hair over 250 yards in total, 74 yards on the ground, and that ain't going to improve against Buffalo. I love Buffalo here at -3.5, and I like under the total of 47.5 as well, guys. But Buffalo is definitely my play in this game. Rams versus Indianapolis. Rams won 34-14 against the Bears last week. Matthew Stafford, 312 yards in the air. Now they find themselves going into Indy. They're -4, a total of 46.5, and the Rams were -3. So again, money coming in on the favorite here, and rightfully so. I mean, Indy looked terrible last week. They lost 28-16. Their O-line was a total disaster, which was really shocking to me. I mean, this is the most expensive O-line in all of football. Carson Wentz was licking his chops. He went from the Philadelphia Eagles with maybe the worst O-line in football to Indianapolis Colts with what on paper should be the best O-line in football, and he ended up running for his life all game long. I got to take the Rams here, guys. I like over the total as well, but I don't believe in this Indianapolis team. I'm likely going to pass on this game, but my lean is towards the Rams and the over. Let's take a look at the San Francisco team. They're playing Philadelphia, and San Fran is -3.5. The total is 49.5, bet up from 46.5. which is a massive bet up because that crossed a bunch of key numbers, especially the number of 49. San Fran beat the Lions 41-33, but they did lose Mostert to injury. Look, I don't know what to make of this San Fran win against Detroit. I mean, they just utterly destroyed Detroit until the fourth quarter, and then they let Detroit get right back in this game. Detroit only lost by one score, and they should have been absolutely annihilated. So, who are the San Francisco 49ers? Are they the team that played the first three quarters lights out against Detroit, or are they the team that really let their foot off the gas and did not play well, especially on D in the fourth quarter against Detroit? Conversely, who the hell is this Philadelphia team? I was on the Falcons last week, and that was a big mistake. Philly just completely dismantled the Falcons. 32-6. Jalen Hurts looked incredible. Their defense was absolutely ridiculous. But I don't believe in Philadelphia. And again, I think this is an overreaction play. I think San Fran is a much better team. I don't think Philadelphia is a playoff contender at all. I don't think Jalen Hurts is nearly as good as he was last week. I think we're getting value on San Fran. I like the 49ers in this game. Next up is the Denver Broncos versus Jacksonville, and Denver is -6. The total is 45. And guys, this is a massive line move. The opening line was -3. Now it has been bet to -6, and rightfully so. I mean, the odds are out for who's going to get the first draft pick in the next NFL draft, and it's Jacksonville again. They lost to Houston 37-21. Lawrence threw 3 interceptions, and their D, as expected and as told to you by the Prez, was a disaster. Not only that, but come on, Urban Meyer, you can't even have your team prepared. I mean, there were penalties. You guys got penalties on too many men in the huddle. Like, you can't even count. You used 2 timeouts in the first quarter. You guys were ill-prepared to play, and I don't know if anything's going to change this week. Denver, they looked outstanding. With that said, they only played the Giants, who are bottom 4 team in the league. They beat the Giants 27-13. Bridgewater looked good, 264 yards, didn't make any mistakes. The Broncos also put together 3 killer drives, guys. 10-play drive, 16-play drive, and a 15-play drive. What does that all mean? Take the under in Denver games because this team, and we've seen this with Teddy Bridgewater throughout his career, this team, when they throw the ball, are going to throw the ball 4 yards. When they run the ball, they're going to run the ball 4 yards. But you do that 3 times and you get a first down every single time. Von Miller was absolutely awesome as well. Judy got injured. He's out, I think, for the next 6 weeks. With all that said, I still will pick Denver. Denver -6 is my play. Normally, I would look to the under in a Denver game, as I mentioned earlier, but I can't against this Jacksonville defense because, frankly, Rice could score on this Jacksonville defense. Next game up, New England Patriots -5.5, 6 against the Jets. 43 is the total. 42.5 actually now. We've just had a line move as I was speaking. Patriots lost to the Dolphins 17-16, but they fumbled that game away. And if you watch that game, they actually played better than Miami from start to finish. They put up 400 yards of offense, including 125 yards on the ground. Mac Jones looked good. He looked poised. He made some outstanding reads, some great throws. I think the Patriots look much better than the score against Miami was. And that's why I think the Patriots are the play in this game. The Jets lost to the Panthers 19-14. They looked okay on defense, but their offense a disaster. 252 yards, only 45 yards on the ground. And if you're only getting 45 yards on the ground against Carolina's D, you're getting less than that against the Patriots D. This game is a stone cold under. 43. This game is one of those 9-6 games. Okay, someone's getting a touchdown. But I think there's a lot of room between 0 and 43 for us to win the under. And I do like the New England Patriots as well. Predicted score in this game, somewhere around 16-9, 16-10. So I think there's room to win on the favorite and on the under. Let's move our attention to Minnesota and Arizona. And wow to Arizona. I mean, this team stood out amongst the Giants in week 1. They beat Tennessee 38-13. They dominated this entire football game. I mean, Tennessee put up like 70 yards on the ground or something. Chandler Jones, 5 sacks. Kyler Murray, absolutely dominant. This Arizona team is so loaded. I'm telling you right now, I think they're going to have a shot at winning the division. And that is the hardest division in all of football by far. Minnesota, 27-20 were lost to Cincinnati, and they just looked awful, especially on defense. This Minnesota team is in a free fall from my perspective. I know they came into the year expecting good things. Cousins and Cook, I forgot his name, Cook running back. They got Thiessen on wide receiver. They shored up their defense. Doesn't matter. They are nowhere near Arizona. I'm getting Arizona at home -4. Guys, over 80% of all games under 6, if the team wins, the point spread is not in play. So with that said, Arizona is clearly the pick in this football game. Now we got Atlanta versus Tampa Bay, and well, Atlanta lost. I think the score was 72,000-6 against the Eagles. This Atlanta team, oh my God, they couldn't have looked worse. Their offensive line was just horrific. And what it's doing is, I mean, Matt Ryan, it could be argued, nobody would trade a bag of balls for this guy. This is 3 years in a row now where he is overthrowing wide receivers, underthrowing wide receivers. His accuracy is a mess. He's concerned about getting beaten up because his O-line is so terrible. They have no running game. Their defense absolutely stinks. Now they play Tampa Bay and they are +12, the total 52. Bottom line for me, guys, pass on this football game. Next is Tennessee versus Seattle, and Tennessee is +5.5. The total on this game is 49.5. Seattle was -3.5 in this game, and it's been bet up. So there's a lot of value has been taken away if you want to be betting Seattle. The bottom line, and I'll just make this super fast, I'm not touching this game. Let's move on. Dallas +3 versus the LA Chargers. 50.5 was the opening total. It is now 55. I absolutely flipped over the over at 50.5. I got it in. I made a bet already at 50.5. Now it's 55. I don't care. This game is going into the 60s, guys. I think we're going to see 34-31 type score. So I definitely like the over, even with the missed value. You take a look at the Chargers last week. They beat Washington 20-17. They had 2 red zone turnovers. 2 red zone turnovers. So they left a ton of points on the floor. And Dallas, and by the way, the Chargers last week were 14 for 18 on third downs. It was just an impressive performance by this team. And defensively, they look good, but hey, they were playing Washington. I don't think the Chargers have a better defense than Tampa Bay. And Dallas put up 29 points against Tampa Bay, and that includes a missed extra point and 2 missed field goals. Herbert last week, 337 yards. Dak, 403 yards. Zeke, 33 rushing yards. Clearly, Dallas is changing their identity in front of us and are becoming a team that is going to take advantage of an incredible wide receiving core. I think we're going to see a massive shootout. And I also think there's a very real chance for Dallas to win the game. Take Dallas +3 and take over the total of 55 points. As for Kansas City and Baltimore, KC beat the Browns 33-21. They shouldn't have. With that said, though, they did get it done, and they showed a lot of moxie. Tyreek Hill, just an outstanding day catching the ball. The problem with Kansas City right now is that they only have 2 outs for Mahomes. With Watkins gone, they've got Hill and Kelsey, and that's about it. And I think that's going to be a problem for them, but not so much this week. Baltimore lost 33-27 against the Raiders. They also just, from my perspective, didn't look really great. I mean, their defense let 33 points in from Vegas and really had 2 massive brain cramps in the secondary. I think Baltimore's secondary is not going to be a good secondary this year, and I think their defense is completely overrated. I think Kansas City goes in there and wins this game, guys. I like KC minus the 3.5. Detroit +11 versus Green Bay, the Monday Night Football game, and I just want to say one thing really interesting. This comes from John Ryan, and that is that in Aaron Rodgers' career, the Packers are 1-4-1 ATS and 6-0 to the over, and 0-6 straight up following a game in which Aaron Rodgers did not score more than 6 points. And here we have that exact situation. Green Bay lost 38-6 to the Saints. Detroit lost 41-33 to San Francisco. The total in this game is 48. It's where I'm going. I like the over in this game. I think Green Bay, I think that game against the Saints was a complete aberration. I think the Green Bay offense is going to be just fine. I like over the total in this football game. And that's it for the entire board, top to bottom. And now we move into the prop section of our show. After that, I'll give you out the best bets and teaser plays. But I was thinking, man, like, is there someone better than me at prop bets? And the answer is, well, there's probably many people better than me at prop bets, but I'm bringing in the best. Andy Lang joining us, and every week Andy will be joining us for a 5 to 6 minute segment on his 3 favorite prop bets of the week. Andy Lang, welcome to the NFL Presidential Address. The mic is yours. The floor is yours. I see you are driving in your beautiful car. I hand the show to you.
Thank you. No, don't drive and bet. You know what they say. So I pulled over. So never drive and bet at the same time. So yeah, we got 3 props to give out. One of them is going to be It's specific to this week, but it's also a long-term over the season bet that I'm going to be looking at. This is the Patriots and Jets, the first quarter under 7.5. I'm going to be looking hard at this Patriots team under first quarters when they're going to give us over 7 points where we need a touchdown and a field goal. So for this particular game, neither team scored in the first quarter last week. Both the first quarters for the Jets and Patriots, the under hit. The Jets' first quarter ended up at a total of 0, and there's only 1 touchdown in the Patriots. So you got 2 teams with rookie quarterbacks, so you got to believe coaches are going to be a little bit tentative. And we saw last week New England had success running the ball. I'm going to expect a lot more of that. They got over 30 carries, and Belichick has dominated rookie quarterbacks. 2 rookie quarterbacks that he played last year faced Justin Herbert. Herbert went 26 of 53 for 209 yards, 2 interceptions, and 3 sacks. Tua went 20 for 26, 145 yards, an interception, 2 sacks. I think points are going to be really, really hard to come by. And when you got a Patriots team that runs the ball, you're going to see the clock run a lot. I like this under 7.5. Speaking of quarterbacks that are going to struggle, Daniel Jones. I actually like him over 33.5 pass attempts. The rushing game for the Giants was a disaster. It's basically non-existent in week 1 against Denver. They rushed 20 times for 60 yards. That's not going to get it done. Saquon looked bad. The offensive line looked bad. And this is a short week against Washington. It's going to be hard to make the case that the Giants' running game is going to get better. Washington only allowed 90 yards on 29 carries to San Diego. So what happened last week with the Giants is they ended up throwing the ball, and they had a lot more success passing than they did running. Not a lot of success, but still more than running. Daniel Jones ended up with 37 attempts last week. I think if they want any chance to hang with Washington against that brutal defensive line, they're going to have to throw the ball. I think this number's a couple passes low. I'd expect them to get over 33.5. And tons of surprises came out of that Saints-Packers game. Here's an under-the-radar prop story, the emergence of Tony Jones as a real contributor for New Orleans. He had 9 rushes and a catch in his Saints debut, rushed for 50 yards total. This is a Saints team that they've used multiple backs for years. I mean, you go back to Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. The Saints had several long scoring strikes last week, which actually took away some of the potential plays that they could have had. And it's hard to take a lot away from the Panthers and the Jets game. The Jets did have success against the Panthers on the offensive line. So it's very possible the Saints are going to have a big advantage with their offensive line against the Panthers. I think the books are sleeping on this total a little bit. Tony Jones' rushing number is 33.5 yards. He had 50 last week. I think this is a little bit low. I would expect 9 to 10 carries. If he gets that 9 to 10 carries mark, all he needs is 4 yards average per rush, and he's going to get there. I think he gets there. I think this is a pretty sneaky sleeper prop that most people are going to gloss over. But not us here at Wager Talk. Take Tony Jones over 33.5 yards rushing.
Andy Lang, outstanding job. He will be a regular on the NFL Presidential Address as well on Wager Talk today. Best bets for week 2, Buffalo Bills, -3.5. Dallas and the LA Chargers over the total, and Denver at -5.5. We went 2-1 last week in our best bets. Let's go for 3-0 this week. Before we get into the teasers, I want to make mention again, I use the promo code PREZ49. That's PREZ49. It is active until Sunday night football begins. That gives you 7 days of plays, all sports, for only $49. 49 divided by 7 equals 7. $7 a day. You get my baseball, my college football, and my NFL. Make sure to take advantage of that. Promo code is PREZ49. As for your teaser, tease the Raiders up, guys. Right now they're +5.5. We take them up. We cross 7. We cross that absolutely crucial number. I love the Raiders. I think they're going to win this football game, frankly. So I will take the Raiders in my 6.2 team teaser, and I will add Green Bay to the mix. Green Bay crosses 2 important numbers for us, 10 and 7. So take the Raiders and Green Bay as a 2-team 6-point teaser. That's it for Survivor. Man, Survivor this week. It's either Green Bay or Cleveland, and I hate to use either of these teams so early, but this is a tough week. I'm likely going to take Cleveland in the circuit contest. I did get through last week with Carolina, so now I'm going back with Cleveland. That's it for the show, guys. What a pleasure to do this for you all every week. I will read all the comments on YouTube. I will respond to most of them. Thank you so much for your loyalty. It has been a pleasure on behalf of me and Andy Lang. Thank you. That's the NFL Presidential Address. We will see you next week for week 3.